Welcome to Kickin It with Jeff Woody and Grant Mahoney. We're
live, Jeff.
Yeah. You were just lamenting. The world's on fire. Nothing matters. Iowa State lost one game, and my self-worth is exclusively tied to the success of 18 to 23-year-olds, and I can't be happy anymore, Grant.
I'd been told the football program is shutting down, that I'm not even going to Ohio.
Nothing.
Season's over.
Did you go to the jersey burning this week?
I was the leader.
Of the jersey burning?
That was me in the helmet, yeah.
So, welcome to Kickin It with Grant Mahoney and Jeff Woody. We are reacting sarcastically to the Iowa State game that happened, unfortunately, with Iowa winning 20-13. We are going to talk a lot about the special teams on it. We're going to get hopefully the recording schedule on this one, because we do have a guest that we're going to be getting to, which I'll let Grant introduce once we actually get down there. We're going to preview Ohio a little bit by the time we get there. So we would have gone through a lot of the nuts and bolts of what happened with Colin Newell. We would have already, this will be released after that. So if you're interested in the breakdown of the actual game itself, we're going to do a lot of that breakdown on Fart. So you can kind of go check that one. We are going to talk about what happened, because there are specific things that we want that at least this show, we're going to get at least a different vantage point. So we're recording in the Wild Rose Casino and Resort Studios, and this thing is lovely, furnished by Nebraska Furniture Mart, as per the usual. We are the primary sponsor is Kelder Manufacturing. We are hitting September. It actually feels like fall. So for those of you that are in harvest season, you don't really care what it feels like. It's just a matter of what you actually got to do. Kelder Manufacturing has the original corn reel invented back in 1977 that can do both up and down corn. And that is the Kelder Manufacturing. Also, big Cyclone fan. So Cyclones helping Cyclones, especially this week when you're going to have the annoying Iowa fans saying, "I told you so," even though they didn't tell you so. So Grant, what were your initial reactions after the 2013 loss? So just like reactions from the game.
Pain. No, Iowa they don't mess up. You know, they let you beat yourself. And yeah, I hate to be that person who's saying that Iowa State beat themselves, but Iowa had no penalties. We threw a pick six. We had a field goal blocked.
And you lost by 7.
We had a pass interference that I think was what I call, but had that not been a pass interference, I think it was on third down.
Yep, it was a third.
I think that led to
third
one
and
of the
15.
touchdowns.
Yep.
So we beat ourselves, and that's kind of the story of this game almost every year.
Yeah, the thing that is frustrating about it is was that game surprising at all? Nope. It was exactly the way it was. That we expected, that we as fans and people, whether it's fans or analysts, it's exactly the way you expected it to go, and it still wasn't able to be changed from what the expectations were, which that's the frustrating part. I think to me, knowing and going in every single week or every single year when you play Iowa, you know exactly what you're going to get. This is not a poker game where someone's trying to like bluff you into something. It's a poker game where they're turning their cards and showing them to you, being like, I have an ace and a jack. What are you going to do? Like, that's the entirety, and that's the frustrating part. And then when it happens, and the loss still happens, that's where it starts to get frustrating.
Like, I told you I had
an ace and a jack. It's like, damn it. So statistically, Iowa State had a higher number of offensive yards, time of possession, first downs, completions, third down conversions, and sacks, and still lost the game. Fun fact, Iowa had 9 first downs in the entire game. 9. They had 11 possessions. 11 possessions if you include the kneel down at the very end of the game. 11 possessions, 9 first downs. If you remove that Jay-Z and Patterson run, Iowa ran for 1.8 yards per carry and still managed to win. Now, granted, that drive ended up on a field goal, so it's not like it was the worst thing on earth, and you can't just remove plays.
That also happened on a third down.
It was on a third down. Now, they only converted 5 of those. Iowa was 5 of 15. I think, 4 of 15. 4 of 15 on third down. Just 2 of them happened to be
14.
Big. 5 of 14. And they just happened to be big conversions. So the frustrating part is knowing exactly what you're going in and it happening that way. The encouraging part, I would say, I thought Rocco played really well. Like, generally, other than that, other than the pick six, which is obviously a stupid decision, and that's one where as you learn, you're going to go back. I mean, Brock Purdy is like the shining jewel of the NFL right now. Remember what happened to the TCU game in 2019? Do you remember what happened in that, Aiden? When Brock was getting sacked and got spun around and just chucked it over his head for an interception return. And you're going, what in the flying frick is that?
Yeah, that was bad. I think that was 2020.
2020. Okay, so 2020.
The year that team got their stuff together,
and
one might say.
And still, that was when, that happened. So it happens. Like, you make stupid decisions. So that's one where you get to the sideline, you go, all right, kid, like, I understand on paper that should be there. They're playing cover 3, the number 2. So a little, I don't know, a little behind football. Like, what actually happened on that plays? I was playing cover 3. They play a lot of zone. They're almost exclusively zone. They very rarely will play a matchup. And if they do play a matchup, it's more like a matchup cover 2, like a 2-man under. But their safeties play super deep. And so on that play, they're playing cover 3. And who plays the flat on cover 3? If the corner is the one that's dropping, because you have 2 safeties, one of the corners is going to get out of there. So who's going to be playing the flat? It's going to be the linebacker to that side. If you have leverage, meaning your receiver is outside of their linebacker, on paper, the right throw is to throw it to that guy because you have leverage. But it's a far field throw. It's a aggressive linebacker that knows what they're doing. So in practice, that doesn't work. So that's one of those, you get to the sideline, you go, hey, kid, I get it. On paper, I know what you're thinking, but we got to reshape that. And it's a learning thing that's going to happen. I think Rocco played fairly well.
I'm going to say it. He outplayed Cade. I think he looked like the better quarterback on the field.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, maybe when McNamara is a little bit healthier, he's able to do a little bit more. But there was a lot of missed throws. I think Lachey and Luke Lachey is going to be a first or second round draft pick. He's a very good tight end.
He was the best one on the field for him for sure.
But the thing is so like, another thing, Iowa State also outplayed them in special teams, sans a blocked field goal. So in years past, in weeks past or last week, we did a statistic of hidden yardage, which, if you're not sure, go back. I went to like a longer diatribe. The short answer of it is basically, how far does your team have to go to catch up to where my team started? So those yards, you might be higher on the stat sheet, but you just have to get to where I start. So those yards are hidden because my team might just get a start, the head start. What do you think the hidden yardage was? Iowa State being on the plus side, Iowa State being, or if Iowa State had more yards, they would be plus X. If Iowa State had less yards, they would be minus X. What do you think the total hidden yardage was on Saturday, including the pick 6, because that is included in the rules?
So the total yards, Iowa State had 290, Iowa had 235. So I think, I don't like this game. I would say that Iowa had more hidden yardage with the pick 6. Well, but then again, our punter had a better game than their punter. I would say that Iowa was plus 60.
Iowa State plus 55, including the pick 6. If you take away the pick 6, Iowa State would have been plus 155 yards in special teams. So if you look at, and this is one caveat on this, is the only drive that was removed from this is once Iowa State got failed on 4th down and Iowa knelt it out. You remove that drive because there was no yards intended to be gained. So you just take that statistic off there. So Iowa State had 12 drives. Their average starting field position was their own 29. Iowa had 10 drives because they had a pick 6 for a touchdown, and you remove the one which was the kneel down at the end of the game. So they had 10 drives. Their average starting field position when you remove the pick 6 and the kneel down was their own 19. So if you're in an Iowa State special teams meeting circa 2010, goal checked, hit that, nailed it. You know what didn't happen? Perfect execution on field goals.
Yeah.
What happened on that from your perspective as a kicker? Because I don't know how many times you watched that play. What happened with that extra point?
Yeah, so Coach Campbell talked about it after the game too, that the line was set, the ball was set, the long snapper had the ball, and the ref came up through the linebacker, and he moved the ball like a foot. Why? Don't know. Because then the long snapper grabbed it, put it right back where it was. He snapped it. It looked like the guard wasn't ready, which is where they came through and blocked it. 1, but also 2, Contreras, I thought, watching it live, I thought right away, I was like, he's taking his time back there. You got to go. And so initially I thought oh, he just took his time. That's why I got blocked. But then watching it back, what had happened was I don't think the line was set. And good on Iowa for noticing that and busting through right there. They blocked it. But I'm really proud of Contreras he's been through some adversity. I mean, granted, it's not anything like major, but last game, he had the bobbled
snap,
PAT, bounced back and hit a 56-yarder. This week, we drive however many yards, the entire length of the field, set up for a field goal, gets it blocked, bounces back and goes 2 for 2. So I'm proud of him for, how he's bounced back. And I hope that it'll pay dividends, later on in the season when inevitably adversity will continue to, arise one way or the other.
Well, and I think the other thing, special teams wise, that I think a lot of people are mad about is when Jalen Knoll didn't field that punt return, which was kind of a skidding punt return. I can understand why that wasn't fielded. I would like him to have fielded it, but I would rather him feel confident in not fielding it than lack confidence and try to field it. Because your team gets the ball back if you just don't touch it. If you don't put a punt returner back and they punt the ball, you get the ball back. End of story. Doesn't matter. So worst case scenario, your team gets possession. If it's a little bit further back, not great, but better than nothing. And so if there's a ball that's a hot shot that's running on the ground, it's not the ball is not round.
Peter.
That's Peter, poison, whatever your team calls it, you call that and get out of the way. Now, if you get a candy hop, which he did at one point earlier in the game, you get a candy hop, you can kind of catch it and see if you can get something out of it, but you're trying to avoid giving the ball back to the other team. We saw that, I think it was 2019, maybe 2017, when Iowa State was going to field the punt return and had number 2 run into the punt returner because he was trying to block somebody else and caused the fumble. And that, again, you have the ball back. If you don't put a returner back, you automatically get the ball back. That punt, based on the cues that Jalen would have gotten, was supposed to go to his right. Everything about the formation, everything about Taylor's steps was to the right. Taylor just shanked it. Like, that was the best punter in America. Shank it a punt. It happens, whatever. That ball is skittering along. You know how much possession matters because you've been told that every possession counts. It's going to be a low possession game. Maybe you get a candy hop. But if you bobble that candy hop, Cooper DeJean's probably going to fall on the ball. I mean, he's just there. Their best tacklers in space are going to be on the coverage team. So, yeah, it's not great that he didn't field it. And, sure, there was a candy hop, but when you're looking at the ball, you can't be looking at the coverage team. If you're looking at the coverage team, you can't be looking at the ball. So I'm not that mad about that particular special teams play. The one or two special teams plays that I think will very much get cleaned up for next year or next week and going forward are on kick return. Is when the ball doesn't get fielded on kick return, that rule is not the same.
Yep, that's what I was going to say too.
Is if they kick off and they get on the ball, they get the ball.
If the ball doesn't cross the end zone.
Right.
And the one that he did not field hit the goal line and bounce back into play.
Right. And the ball is he's going to have some backspin to it. So there's like a 50-50 shot that it catches the nose maybe and then actually gets some backspin. Yeah. Most of the time because momentum is going to carry it through. But you could get this the Scotty Scheffler wedge shot where it spins backwards. So the easy fix to that is you put your heels in the goal line. If it's going over your head, do the whole put your arms out thing. And the reason why they do the put your arms out is because the people that are blocking, like the people that would have been in my position, I'm trying to set my blocks off the angle of where the returner is because I need to know where I'm blocking to because I don't want to block the guy into my returner. So I'm looking back at him. I'm going to peek at the returner. And so if he's putting his arms out in that T position, which is really clear, then I know all right, disengage, don't get a holding, block in the back, cheap shot, something. Don't do anything stupid. So that's what that little T thing is. Well, if you're going to do that little T thing, put your heels in the goal line. And if it's over your head, do the little T thing. If it's not going to go over your head, catch the ball. If you don't want to return it, fair catch it. Yeah. That's a rule that's allowed. And you get the ball to 25. It's just like going in the end zone. Is just put your hand up in the air, wave it, catch the ball, get to 25. So I think that is going to be a really easy fix. And that our returners, so like Jarvis West and Josh Lenz were the two guys that returned punts most of the time when we were there. And the rule that they would have is they'd call it the 10-yard cliff, is that you're standing on punt return, you put your heels in the 10, and if the ball's going over your head, just get away from it. There's nothing good that can happen unless it's a line drive and you can absolutely do something with it. Do the same thing on kick return. Put your heels at the 0, If it's over your head, let it go. If it's in field, it's fieldable, get it. But that is a clean-upable mistake.
And there's no reason to, punt. It's different because they're punting from, different yards on the field. So yes, if you're at the 10-yard line and it goes over your head, there's a better chance the punt's going to roll forward than not, unless it's,
unless it's they're punting from like the 38-yard line and he's really trying to put backspin on it.
Yeah. So when you normally go to punt a ball, it's almost you holding the ball as if you're going to shake someone's hand. Now, if you are closer to the midfield line, you saw Perkins do it one time. You'll see him do it quite a bit. You hold the ball kind of like on its top, and you're basically kicking the bottom of it to get that, end
Backspin,
over end.
yeah.
End over end like a. So unless it's one of those, either way, if you're at the 10 and it goes over your head, probably let it go on a punt. But a kickoff, there's no reason why you should not have your feet on the goal line, especially when you're playing against a guy who's had 5 touchbacks earlier in the game. There's no reason why that one should not have been fielded, especially because earlier in the game,
there's one that went 1 yard deep and did the same thing.
AJ Harris, I think there was one that hit on the 5 and kind of skirted into the end zone. And I saw Jalen go up to Harris and be like, "Hey, field that." I don't know what he said to him, but I can imagine the conversation was, "Hey, you got to field those." Mm-hmm. And then Noel had, same thing after a bounce on the goal line. It's like, I don't know. Don't be a cool guy. Just field it.
Just field it. Yeah. Yeah.
Fair catch, field it. Or, yeah.
And I think one of the things that when you just generally the theme of the game, that Iowa State was 85% of the way to winning that game. But the 15% where they weren't were in places where Iowa was good. In that I'm on Channel 5, I get to do every Saturday, I get to do a little a whiteboard breakdown. It's like an actual film breakdown. They have a touchscreen TV. I get to do a visual thing for 5 or 7. It's nice. It's real nice. That's fancy. So this week I'm going to do that with, there was a 3rd and 1. It was the second drive that Iowa State had. It was after their long drive. They get the ball back. There was I forget how they got there, but it was I think a good first down run. And then it was 2nd and 1. They get a ball batted down. It's 3rd and 1. If they convert that, they capitalize and continue the momentum that they had gotten from the first drive. And momentum, I think if you talk to some people, momentum is a farce. You get a certain amount of luck and a certain amount of not, but confidence is a real thing. And especially when you have a young team and a young quarterback, they have a freshman quarterback with a redshirt freshman running back with a true freshman running back, and you have a freshman tight end standing next to a sophomore tight end standing next to Easton Dean, who's a senior. You have a first-time transfer wide receiver, or he's an experienced guy, program. But Higgins at wide receiver, and you've got Jalen Noel, who's I think a sophomore, junior, but so you've got some experience, but not much. But you have a quarterback and 2 running backs in the backfield that are all freshmen, and so if you can build some confidence that the boogeyman of the Iowa defense is not that big of a deal because we moved the ball last time, we can move the ball this time. It changes the dynamic of the confidence of that roster. And the tight ends get absolutely blown up. On 3rd and 1, the tight ends got absolutely smoked, and they didn't bring the physicality that was necessary to convert it. And then the other side of it was that Cooper DeJean is a dude. He was the best player on the field. On either team, on either side of the ball, Cooper DeJean was the best player on the field.
He showed ways an All-American, yeah.
And so you have that guy, and they played into into what he was doing. And so tight ends get punked. Tyler Miller misses a block. Cooper DeJean plays in, and Norton has to skirt away. Well, if you're just a little bit more physical, if you're 85% physical against Iowa, you're going to get a helmet to your sternum, you're going to get pushed back. If you're 100% physical, then you can actually match them. They don't do anything crazy. That's the thing when you're playing Iowa. You know what they're going to do. You know exactly the front they're going to run, and pretty sure when Iowa State's defense is watching their offense, you know what they're going to run too. So it's not a question of what's going to happen. It's just a matter of executing better than they did. And Iowa State was 85% of the way to doing that. It's just the mistakes that they made led into Iowa's hands, and they were just short.
Yeah, people are asking, is the NFL scripted? And I don't know. I'm just kidding. It's not. One thing I can tell you, though, is that Iowa football, you know what you're going to get. It is scripted, and for whatever reason, I feel like we play differently against Iowa. It's almost like we're trying to out-Iowa. Well, Iowa State's trying to out-Iowa Iowa's brand of football.
Well, and
by just dinking and dunking and just getting 3-4 yards.
Okay, so that's actually a pretty good point. So with the way that Iowa State wants to play, especially on the way of just roster composition, and you talk about square peg, square hole. I mean, that's a phrase that I've used a lot, which is what can our guys do? And let's enable them to do that. And let's not try and make them do something that they can't do. So if you were to try and have J.J. Cole at 6'7" and kind of doesn't move sideways all that well, but can run forward, if you try and make him run the triple option, not exactly great. Like, that's a square peg, round hole. But if you let him or Rocco, for this example to actually be true, if you let Rocco be kind of he's got a decent accurate arm down the field, but doesn't really want to throw it down. He's not going to take a crow hop into it, but he's going to be efficient. He's going to be accurate, more or less good decision making, get the ball out. You've got a zillion tight ends that are all good pass catchers, and you've got really two running backs that have shown that they're going to be kind of the cream of the crop, where it's going to be Norton and Sama. They're going to be the two guys they want to run. Sama plays sort of Brees-ish, where he can run both between and outside the tackles, and Norton wants to play downhill hard. You've got two receivers, maybe a few. Daniel Jackson had a couple flashes, but Higgins played really well. But this whole offense is meant to run physical. We're going to have 6 tight ends that are going to all rotate. They're going to play with a tight end and a fullback, and maybe 2 tight ends and a fullback, and they're going to run between the tackles. They're going to try and take these little angles and get your big body tight end on a smaller safety, hit it to his outside shoulder. They're going to play this slower offense, and they're going to play this more physical offense because the teams that you're generally playing in the conference, that is foreign to them. That's what Iowa plays every week. And so from a matchups perspective, you know, in basketball is all about matchups, where if you have two 7-footers that are playing in the middle, great advantage. Problem is, what if you're playing a team that has 4 3-point shooters that are all 42% from 3? Well, that big ass dude, one of those big ass guys has to go out and cover. And so your advantage against some person is a disadvantage against them. Same thing with Iowa State. In this game against Iowa, their physicality and size is a disadvantage because they're playing against a team that plays that all the time and has been for forever. So I think that's a thing that Iowa State and like the Campbell staff has done historically pretty poorly. I think 1-6, 1-7 now against
6,
Iowa.
yeah.
That's, I think the biggest reason why is because their style plays very similar to Iowa's style, and Iowa just does Iowa's style a little better. But you get into the Big 12 and you're able to do that against Texas and beat Texas, and you can out physical Texas because that's not a thing they see all the time. So I think it's one of those things that's it's usually a bad matchup for Iowa State under Campbell, at least so far.
Yeah, and I mean, Kansas State plays a similar style too, and they've won the Big 12 the last 2 years, and it's frustrating because in 2017 or 2019, I can't remember which year it was, we had some hurry up offense, and I think it was 17 where we were up like 2 or 3 scores, and I was like, this is gonna be a blowout.
Was that the Lightning game, Aiden?
It was
2017 or 18?
Hakeem Butler had.
That was 2017.
Yeah,
Lightning
the
game was
Lightning game.
2019.
Okay, but it was the game when it was Nate Stanley was the opposing quarterback, and Iowa State had this. It was like 42 points or something, like 38 points.
It was 44-41.
Yeah, 44-41. And they just had a ton of points. They were able to move the ball up and down the field.
But we had a lead in that game.
I think it was like 10 points with 4 minutes left or something crazy
but
like that.
They were able to do that. They were able to move the ball and score because they were playing an offense that fit the personnel. Like, you're playing an offense. You had a big wide receiver, Hakeem Butler. You had other wide receivers. I don't know if it was LaMichael Petway or number 23. Eaton, Matt. Like, you have those guys, your big wide receivers, that's the focus of your offense. You're trying to get the ball out to them. And you got David Montgomery who can run through a tree. And so you don't need to bring a lot of trash in to run with David Montgomery. So, like, that style offense works against Iowa. This style offense, which works in the Big 12 generally, doesn't really work against Iowa.
And I just think, I'm going to beat this drum until the end of time. If Iowa State runs hurry up offense or speeds it up, we've had success. Iowa State's had success against Iowa in the past when Iowa State's gone, hurry up and has sped up the game, whereas they slow it down and try to play Iowa's ball. Yeah, it generally doesn't work.
I think the difficulty in doing that is because it's not a super practiced thing that you start speeding up. So, I mean, I could be wrong, but like, this is the counter argument to that is, yes, you'd want to see the ball. You'd want to see Iowa State go faster. You also have a kid who has, this is his first Power 5 matchup, his first Power 5 experience that he's gotten, which is the second time in a row that you're breaking in a new quarterback against Iowa. Last year it was Deckers. This year it's Rocco Becht. And you've got two guys that are young. They're trying to figure out what's going on. They're trying to get their first snaps. They're trying to see everything the right way. And again, on paper, a lot of this stuff makes sense on paper, but it doesn't really make sense in person. And then you start going faster. And like, yes, there was a couple times in that last drive when everyone was really irritated. And Aiden did a really good job with Bruns about talking about what that pace is. And I agree with Bruns on that. Like the pace of that last drive of it not being hurry up, totally fine with it. Because you need a small diatribe here is you need to score anyway. You must get a touchdown. If you hurry it up, fast and wrong is still wrong. So if you need to be in the right play, in the right formation, the right setup, the right read, the right confidence, the right everything, and the pace is better for Rocco to go a little bit slower, do that. Don't put him in a situation where he's uncomfortable, because if you throw a pick, if you get stopped on fourth down, whole thing doesn't matter anyway. And so fast and wrong is still wrong. So if you don't get a touchdown there, game is over. So him scoring a touchdown or driving to score a touchdown, at some point you're going to go hurry up because you have to have a certain amount of time for your defense to get a stop. So there was going to reach a point where they would have to actually try and hurry it up. Second thing, we've seen Campbell in years past play to his defense strongly.
Yeah.
Like Aiden and I were talking about before we recorded, the fire and brimstone that immediately happened. It was in Texas 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, Texas 2020.
When they punted from like the 45 with 3 minutes to go. And it was like fourth and 1, and they punted from the 45, and I think they had a lead, and they were trying to just lock the game down, or they were just they're trying to hold the game in the position and fire and brimstone. Well, they got a 3 and out, got the ball back. And so you're playing to your defense, knowing that if we're going to win the game, the side of the ball that's probably going to win the game is going to be that one. And so let's put our defense back on the field to give a situation to get us the ball back. And let's make sure that the weaker side of the ball, our offense, has enough time and confidence that they can actually get it. Because you can Hail Mary with 3 seconds left. If you get the ball with 1 second left on the clock, you can Hail Mary, fumble Rooski, do whatever kind of crazy stuff that you want to do. You can't do that on the defensive side of the ball. So like you're gonna have to get a stop at some point. You're gonna trust that your defense will get a stop. And the possession prior, you need that touchdown. So don't rush it and get into a wrong situation. All that being said, if they are able to, with more experience, say next year, and let's say Rocco is able to play next year,
10-win season next year.
I like it. A lot of talent. But let's say he is more comfortable. He's able to make better, faster reads, and you get more of the Brock Purdy circa 2019 style offense to it. You're able to play Brahmer more in space. You get Higgins or Knoll, and they're going to be more of a true one receiver. You get Ngoyi and Kai Black and those younger wide receivers, and they start becoming whatever. And Sama wants to run in space more. And like maybe you transition the offense to do that. But like this year's offense, I don't think, at least yet, wants to do that. Yeah,
and Campbell had said stuff after the game about how it was a good test, and I think that rubbed some people the wrong way. But it's true. I mean, that's gonna be one of the best defenses that Iowa State plays all year, and it's good to, obviously you want to win the game, but it's good to get those type of tough, grinded out type of games in early on to battle test these young guys, because we had the chance. I mean, Iowa State scored with 4 minutes or so left. Iowa went, I don't know how many plays. Iowa State got the ball back with 2 minutes, minute and a half left, and it was there. I mean, Iowa State was marching, doing what we needed to do. I talked about this before the game, before we started recording, that we were running the read options all game. I don't think Rocco kept it once.
Yep.
And on that 4th and 1, it was wide open.
It was, yeah. And again, that is one of those things that I'm sure on paper or in the meetings, you go, hey, let your running back make the play.
Which makes sense. I mean, Norton's a big, strong, run-through-your-face runner. You got to trust your linemen to do their thing and trust Norton to get you three feet.
But the whole point of a zone read is you're not going to block a guy on purpose. And sometimes you don't block two. Whoever the end player is, and sometimes they bring an extra end player, a la the last play of the game, And whoever the last player on the line of scrimmage is, you read that guy. And if that guy collapses down, quarterback's got to keep it. If he doesn't, or if that guy collapses down and you give it to the running back, it doesn't matter. You could have Barry Sanders there, and 1 out of 10 plays he might break that tackle, but 9 out of 10 times the best running back in America, or for my money in the history of football, is going to get tackled for a loss because there's a guy hitting a guy from the back that you can't do anything against. And so the read option, if you're going to run it, the quarterback must become a threat. Absolutely must become a threat. And if they don't, then get to a different play call where you are not leaving an unblocked defender, because the block, air quotes, for that guy is the quarterback. That's the reason why zone read is so effective most of the time, is because the quarterback pulling the ball and making the defensive end like think about it and like hang on a little bit
respect you.
Right. That is the equivalent of blocking, because it's holding a guy and letting the running back run away from him. If you are not doing that, and the defensive end, or in this case, a defensive end and a linebacker, if they're just sky into the running back and not even thinking about you, then that's the equivalent of a missed block. Like, that is an MA.
And when you just need 1 yard, the little bit of hesitation to get them to pause, to look at the quarterback and think, oh, is he keeping it?
That's enough.
Would be enough to get you 1 yard.
Right.
And they, unfortunately, Iowa didn't respect Rocco enough to think, oh, you might keep it here. No, they thought right away.
Yeah, so that's one of those things that you either got to communicate that if it's there, you must take it. And I would imagine, hey, Aiden, a little research here. How many teams were undefeated last year? 1. The Georgia Bulldogs. So everybody's going to suffer a loss at some point. And like, it sucks, frickin' sucks to lose to Iowa. But if you're losing in a way that makes you better over time, then it's not the worst thing on earth, and you have to be able to forget it, move on, learn from the lessons, and get going. But if you linger on it, then that's bad. And like fans, there's a reason I don't have Twitter on my phone, because I would imagine that is just an absolute cesspool diarrhea of fury and hurt feelings and
burn your jerseys, get rid of the program. It's game 2.
Yeah,
it's game 2 with a young team. You know, Campbell's comments were about a lesson.
Developing a young team.
And it's this is not a throwaway season. This is a rebuilding season that I still think we get to a bowl game. I think we'll surprise some people because we are young and inexperienced, but we're talented.
Yeah, extremely talented, especially on the defensive side. But going into next week, so we're going to preview this a little bit. Now,
time out. I want to talk about one more thing.
Okay.
Is Tyler Perkins on track to be an All-American?
He might be.
Honest question. So Torrey Taylor, dubbed America's the world's favorite punter or whatever.
To be fair, damn good punter.
Damn good punter. He had 6 punts for an average of 46.3 yards. Guess how many he had inside the 20?
And a shank.
And a shank. Guess how many he had inside the 20?
Less than 2.
2 less than that. Yes, he had 0.
0. Okay.
So
2 minus 2. Got it.
Tyler Perkins also had 6 punts, average of 51.8, which is more than 46.3.
Each hit.
And he had, unfortunately, 2 touchbacks. But
one of them was comical. It almost hit the goalpost.
Yep. Crushed. But he had 3 inside the 20.
Well done.
Well, so half of his punts were inside the 20, averaging almost 52 yards a punt. I'm not trying to jinx him. He's on track to be an All-American right now.
Or at least all-conference. Minimally all-conference.
For sure. He has been, our special teams has been great so far. Contreras has, when he has done his thing, when all circumstances have gone how they should, he's been great. Perkins,
especially
great.
I think that 44-yarder at the end of the game with Contreras. I mean, you could have the goalpost could have been 3 feet wide and still would have made that shot.
And the thing I love about Contreras too is that some kickers, you may see, especially guys who don't have a ton of experience, you may see what's called an X ball, which means their foot wraps around and you kind of get the ball is in shape of an X. It's not end over end.
It goes kind of floppy sideways and then turns and floppy another sideways. Yeah.
It doesn't look clean. All of his kicks have been clean, aside from the one that got blocked. They've all been clean end over end. And they've been, slow rotating, not like if it's like a fast spinner, you're hitting way under the ball, or if it's like a slow rotating, you're hitting right at the sweet spot and you're not wrapping your foot, you're keeping it locked out.
Just pounded. Each one of these is pounded.
He's been having a good season. He's been consistent. So I've been impressed so far with Contreras, and Perkins dude's been money.
We are, special teams has been substantially better. But we're going to move on at least a little bit, talk about Ohio. Before we actually get to the guest, what are the things about this game. I think 3.5 points right now, at the time we're recording this, that Iowa State's favorite.
I think it's only 2.5.
It was two. It was 2.5.
I think it opened
and
at 2.
It opened at 2. It's up to 3.5 now. And I respect that there are. I mean, okay, I don't want to be message board fodder here.
We beat them 43-10 last year. Yes, it was at Ames, but it's the same quarterback. We have a little bit of a different team.
And at the same time, Matt Campbell in the past has played 3 MAC teams. Average score of those games is 37-13 against 3 MAC schools. Now, the other thing about this is Matt Campbell comes from the MAC, so he understands the talent level and the focus and the shot you're going to get from the MAC. You are not going to get an Iowa State team overlooking this game because 1, they just came off a loss, and 2, they have a MAC coach as their coach. That 2.5 point line or 3.5 point line feels very low. Not to say that Ohio allowed 5 rushing yards last week against
Only 5?
FAU. 5 rushing yards last week. And they got their starting quarterback back, and they beat Tom Herman's Fighting Owls.
Hoo-hoo.
So it's a good team. It's a good win. And I think the reason is there's sort of a little recency bias here in that Iowa State lost and their offense, quote, looked bad, and Ohio's defense looked good, quote, and it's at home. And I think that's the reason why this line is the way it is. But I have confidence that the defensive execution will limit Ohio substantially from what their expectations are. And then Iowa State's offense is going to be bigger and more physical because they have gotten big. They've gotten more physical over time. Week 1 to week 2, they've missed a little bit. They're going to get more lessons to learn and continue to get more physical. I think the running game will click a little bit more, but we're going to learn a little bit about Ohio in the next little bit. The interview brought to you by Goldfinch Athletics is whom?
We've got none other than the Beau Blankenship, who, if Iowa State fans recall, was a member of the 2009 recruiting class for Iowa State. He was at Iowa State for 2 years, transferred to Ohio, where he had a really great career. He's currently the Independence Bowl rushing touchdown record holder. He was all MAC while he was at Ohio. He ran a 4.4 at Ohio.
And probably took 647 steps in those 40 yards. He has the quickest little gait.
Yeah, and he had, he bopped around a little bit in the NFL.
Had a cup of coffee in the league.
Just salt of the earth dude. So I'm super happy he's able to join us. Now, welcome to the show, Beau Blankenship. Beau, how you doing?
Hey, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
We're glad you're here, man.
It's the sweet stylings of that Oklahoma accent.
Oklahoma, living in Destin. Well, sweet, Beau. Well, we brought you on because obviously you were with us for a little bit at Iowa State, and then went to Ohio and had a great career at Ohio. Had a cup of coffee in the NFL, and now you're down there just living life in Florida, doing your thing.
Yeah,
so
man.
Let's talk some Bobcats.
Let's do it.
So what can you, I guess just right off the bat, what can you tell our listeners about this Ohio team?
I think they're pretty solid. Curtis Rourke's solid, man. He's a really good player. He got hurt at the end of last year.
That's your quarterback, right?
Mm-hmm. But he's very, very good. His brother just signed on with Jag. He's a good player. I think he'll get drafted, and I think he'll have a good career. He's huge, got a great arm. The running back, they've got 2 that are very good. They're Power 5 guys that went there. I think he rushed for 1,000 yards as a true freshman. Bangura is his name. Very good. I don't know much about the line, but that's going to be, I think, the crucial part of the game is the O-line and D-line. Because, the running backs can run, the receivers, the linebackers, safeties, everyone's going to be fast and big, but it's going to come down to how does the line hold up.
So one question that I think I'm curious about, because I only played at one spot, what is the difference? Because having played at Iowa State and then having played at Ohio, what's the difference on whether it's roster or speed or what's the difference between playing at a quote Power 5 level and playing at Ohio? What is the difference in that, inside the locker room or whatever? What is the difference between those two?
To be honest with you, it's very little. So I went straight from there We did 2 camps, did spring ball, winter workouts, and then went to Ohio. And it's not much difference. Like people are fast, people are strong, people are big. I mean, it's the same thing in the NFL. Like it's the same thing. Linebackers are going to run 4.5, and receivers are 4.4. The biggest difference is the D ends and the D line. Like you've got just these dogs that when you have a 6'6" D end running 4.4, it's like that's a different animal. So I would say that's the biggest difference: the line.
Is there
depth of the line?
Is there any, like, when you guys are playing, because I'm thinking like when we'd play Texas or we play Oklahoma or something like that, it's one of these, F you, I want to show you that, like, we're here. And so there's like the little bit of extra sauce in that game. Is that the same when a MAC school is playing up into the, again, quote, Power 5? Is there a little bit of extra juice in that game just to, because whether it's recruiting getting passed over or whatever, does that exist?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say there's a chip on the shoulder for these guys. Like Ohio's a bunch of Big Ten kids that either chose to go here or didn't get offered, or chose Ohio, Toledo, Northern Illinois over Indiana, Minnesota, or whatever. So there is definitely a chip on their shoulder. But yeah, there's definitely some juice. There's gonna be some excitement. But yeah, it's a big game. Yeah.
So you had mentioned before we jumped on here that you're pretty close with the current head coach, and we played Ohio. Iowa State played Ohio last year in Ames, and we fared pretty well. But we've got Iowa State's got a completely different offensive roster really this year. Mm-hmm. What kind of style, if the fans want to go back and rewatch the game, what kind of style would you say that that Ohio runs on? We'll start on offense, and we can go to defense as well too, if you're familiar with that.
Yeah. So offense, it's going to be a spread, but can run it down your throat too. So the head coach was the offensive coordinator while I was there for a long time, and RB coach. So I mean, his offense will give you options to get inside, get outside, and go deep. So it's a pretty balanced, but it's open. So he'll be able to pick his targets. But again, I think the key is going to come down to the line. If the line can't block, it's going to be tough. And defensive wise, if the D line can't penetrate, it's going to be tough. So I mean, that's literally what it's going to be, and that's the difference really between Big 12 and Power 5 or Group of 5 or whatever. It's that right there. So.
Yeah, and I would say that Iowa State's defensive line is young and a little unproven, but we've actually, Iowa State's lines looked pretty good so far. How is Ohio's offensive line? Are they seasoned? Are they young?
I don't know, but from what I watched against, they played FAU last week, which is Herman.
The Herman Bowl. Yeah. Dude, can you? By the way, to interrupt that question. Have you met anyone that's more proficient with the F word than Tom Herman?
Bro,
you watched
it's so tough for me. I mean, it's brutal. But no, he is very good at using it. So I almost went down to it just to check it all out. But
how far from FAU are you? Because I don't even know where FAU is. Is it like
Boca Raton?
Okay, so that's like between Miami and like just north of Miami.
It's kind of by West Palm Beach.
Okay,
Palm Beach area. So.
Roosevelt Magid's on their.
Yeah, Rosie's on the staff.
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
Yeah, Herm got Rosie. I think he's a quality control coach, like one of those.
No,
like
I think
coach,
I think he's a defensive. I think he's a defensive line coach.
That's
I
awesome.
want to say he's like their DN coach, like not like a quality control's not a legit coach, but I think he's a legit coach.
Rosie's. I remember Roosevelt. Like he was one of. I describe sometimes the Florida educational survivors and Florida educational system victims, because like they're not dumb, but like, Florida educational system ain't great. So I remember Rosie is in I'm in like the training room, and I don't know if I'm getting my ankles taped or something like that, and Rosie's like, hey Cobes, my hamstring tight, and I'm like, hamstring? Spell that. Like HAMSKRING, and everybody in the room's looking like, what?
What's this guy talking about?
What? Hamstring? Really?
Yeah, he's defensive.
Yeah, super sharp dude. Just never got taught anything.
No,
him and Hamlin.
So against FAU, it didn't look like they blocked like super great from what I could tell. They lost to San Diego State, but Rourke was out. They should have murdered them. They got like within the 15-yard line like 4 times and couldn't do anything. So we'll see what happens.
Just keep an eye out for number 95, Dominic Orange. We call him the Big Citrus.
Yeah, he's that 6'6", 335, 340. Had to cut to get to 340.
Now,
what is he? D-tackle? What is he?
So they play. Iowa State plays that 3-3-5 kind of a dime stack. It's so they play a 0 nose, and then they play like 2 4 eyes depending on where the formation is. And one of those 4 eyes is a guy named Tyler Onyetum, who that's
Number
more
11.
or less their 3 technique, and they'll usually keep him inside the tackle, and then by formation they'll pop the other guy out who. Last year, Iowa State, the first round draft pick in Iowa State history since 1970, whatever. Will McDonald. But Will McDonald, they always have a speed rusher guy, and so that player will sometimes adjust out to be a 7 or a 9. They usually go 0 nose, 4 eye on one side, which is just inside the tackle for the listener who doesn't remember D-line techniques, and then other defensive lines out there. So Orange plays the 0 nose all the time, and so far, his main objective has been punk the center, and he has done that successfully to this point.
he's a big, strong dude, and he did that well versus UNI, and Iowa's offensive line's a little bit better, but yeah,
that could definitely be a problem. But
so
if
now,
the O-line and D-line can hang in there, I think it'll be a good game. But.
Yeah. All right, Bo. So we are obviously on a podcast called Kickin It, which, I'm a kicker. Jeff cut his teeth on the special team, so let's dive into the meat and potatoes, baby. How are Ohio special teams? How's your kicker? How's your punter? If you know anything about the long snapper?
Holder?
Bro, I don't know. It looks like they're good, though.
Okay.
But I really don't have much info on the kicking game. But they haven't missed anything from what I can tell.
Okay, that's good.
But from I know from Albin, the head coach, special teams is super important to him, so I imagine they'll be dialed. I know some of the returners are good. As far as the punter, we lost our kicker last year, who was very good. That went to Wisconsin. He's now kicking for Wisconsin. So
transfer.
He's a freshman All-American.
Come on,
I don't think he got the what are the deals now? The NIL deal. He didn't get the deal he wanted or whatever.
You didn't get any NIL deals in Athens?
I've done a few, but I didn't do that one.
Well.
I've done 2, but did not do that one. But but I don't know anything else about that. Just being real.
Now
I should have looked at it.
You'd mentioned your returners though. So Iowa State was big on last year, just fair catching everything. This year, Iowa State's been a little bit better at returning punts and kickoffs if they're not in the end zone. What's Ohio been like? Are they trying to set up returns like on punts and kicks?
Yeah.
Are they pretty conservative?
Yeah. No, it looks like they're trying to set it up. I've seen them fair catch a few, but if it's there, I think they're taking it for sure.
Okay, because our punter, we talked about this earlier in the show. Our punter, I mean this wholeheartedly, is on track to be an All-American this year, at least all conference. He's averaging
54, 53.
He's averaging over 50. Yeah, a punt. He's having through the first 2 games having a hell of a season so far.
So a little peek behind the Iowa State curtain. It's the first time last year Iowa State, I believe, had 3 punts blocked, a field goal blocked, a kick return or a punt return returned for a touchdown, and mishandled several kicks and punts. So they, in Iowa State fanland, it was torches and pitchforks, and they finally hired a special teams coordinator. Lo and behold, it actually worked.
There you go.
But okay, speaking about coaches, how does it feel knowing that you are old enough to have played for a coach who has a field named after him?
That's a good question.
I'm a professional.
Frank's kind of like a legend, so that's
so what
cool.
was Solich like?
I mean, everything you can probably imagine. I mean, just kind of old school. I mean, he's great. He's great to play with. He's been around so many people. You remember like Eric Crouch when we were growing up, and like all those guys. Like, he was great to be around. He still, I think, goes to like almost every game.
What's his own stadium? Is it Frank Solich Field? Or is it Frank Solich Stadium?
I think it's Frank Solich Field. They call it Frank. So I don't know, but that happened like I don't know, 2 years ago. But that's cool, man. He's great. but Albin's been with him since Nebraska. So that his staff has all followed him. Burrow was with him till last, or I guess 2 years ago.
Papa Burrow?
And Papa Burrow was
Ames
there,
native.
the coordinator. Is he? Oh, that's right. He coached at Iowa State too.
Yeah, and
Yep.
Joe Burrow was born in Ames. Could have been an Iowa
Right.
Stater.
I probably wasn't going to be,
Could have
but
been.
could have been.
Could have been.
Going to go back to his roots.
But yeah, so I mean, they've all followed him, and so they've all kind of had the same kind of coaching style. Obviously, the offense has changed since he's been there, but he was great to play for, man. Great to play for.
Is there so Iowa State's playing at Ohio.
Yep.
There are going to be several Iowa State fans that go out there.
Mm-hmm.
Top 3 restaurants to go to before the game,
Oh,
if they're still there. If they're still because I don't know when the last time you were in Athens was.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Still, top 3 restaurants to go to.
I would say restaurants, and if there's any kind of, if people get out there a day or two early, any kind of like sightseeing stuff that you'd recommend.
No, don't let them off the hook. Don't
Okay.
don't increase it.
Restaurants.
Just restaurants, Bo.
I'll do restaurants, but I may throw in some sightseeing.
Okay.
So Athens, it's just like kind of in the middle of nowhere. Like in the middle of nowhere. The scenery is amazing. It's like an hour southeast of Columbus. Like it's just, the town is the university, so that is what it is. But like restaurant wise, I'm a pizza guy. DP Dough is amazing pizza wise. I'm trying to think what else. There's the hot dog place on the corner. What is it called? Let me look it up. I'll look it up. And then Ohio Inn has some great food. It's the hotel right there by the stadium. It's awesome. As far as like scenery, like the Hawking River there is amazing. And really just going down the main strip and just kind of experiencing it. It's like super cool.
Is it like small town college-y vibes? Where it's
Small town college
shop next
vibes,
to a
dude.
shop next to a shop next to a restaurant?
Dude, that's exactly what it is. That's what it is. And it's awesome though. It's super cool. Like you guys, I know you're not going, but like it's a cool experience. I haven't been back since I left, but it's a cool town, dude.
Yeah, I think you're living in Destin. I think you're probably or
Yeah,
just
no, I
outside
love
of
it,
Destin. I think you're probably
Yeah.
good. I don't think
Yeah.
so I have to go back
That's
to
cool.
Athens.
It's not super easy to get to because if you're not, if you're flying into Columbus then driving in. So
It sounds like it's maybe on a smaller scale, kind of like Ames, because I mean Ames is
very much so.
yeah,
Very
Ames
much
is
so.
outside of the university. You've got Ames High,
Yep.
but its population drops. Significantly.
Dude, it's very similar to that. I mean, a little bit smaller, but very, very similar feel.
What is the stadium like? Like Frank, what's the Frank like? Because I guess capacity wise, energy wise, kind of setup. Is it turf field?
Yes. Yep. So it's a cool stadium. It's one of the oldest stadiums around. I think definitely in the MAC. It's got a great feel to it. It's right on the Hawking River. You got scoreboard in one end zone, and the other end zone's the athletic training center with academics. So it's brand new. Then you've got the bowl around it, and then you got the press box on the I don't know what that would be. I guess the south side. It's a great environment. All the fans are great. Tailgating outside, right outside in the parking lot, and then down the street there's another one. But it's a great experience, dude. And I love the Frank. It's awesome.
Does Frank have a statue outside the Frank, or is it just the stadium? Which I mean, I say just.
I
that's
don't
big.
think
Is it
there's a
just
statue
a stadium
Yeah.
yet?
I don't think there's a statue yet.
Is there a Phil Bates statue?
That's a good question. There's not.
There's
There's not.
Phil
There's
Bates
not.
also an Iowa State, Ohio.
He is.
Legend.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice little career at Ohio too, didn't he?
Yeah. He ended up. He did the
Went to
quarterback thing
Seahawks
for
for a
just a
little
little bit, and he played in the league for a few years.
Yeah.
But he went to receiver, but physically gifted, just freak, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Just freak.
because he was there
Yeah.
before you were there, right, Grant?
I played 1 year with him.
He left as I was coming in,
Yeah,
or
I played
as
1
we
year
were
with
coming
him.
in, Jeff.
Mhm.
He left right then, and then he went up there, sat out a year, and played
He left because Arnaud he wasn't playing over
quarterback,
Arnaud.
right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
And the same thing happened in Ohio. Quarterback, and he moved to receiver, and then Just physically
actually
freak.
played.
Which is odd because his freshman year when Iowa State played Iowa, he had a huge catch at receiver to win it for Iowa State.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, he was a great athlete, but at some point, unless you're Lamar Jackson.
I mean, to be fair, Bo, did anyone tell you when you were in recruiting, did they tell you to try and get to switch positions, or were you always going to be a tailback?
It was not really, because I'm 5'8", or 5'9", so like I didn't play any defense in high school, so not really. If anything, they said fullback, I'd be like, no, screw you. And then
because you're white.
because I'm white.
Come
Well,
on.
honestly, back then I think it's better now, but being white back then
Hey,
it was tough.
preaching to the
I mean,
choir,
it really
man.
was.
I got
I know, but
in every recruiting visit, every single recruiting visit, I was, hey, we think you think you'd be a good fit for the university, and we want you to play linebacker. He's like,
linebacker. Yeah.
guys, I've
Yeah,
never
same.
played. I've never. Come on. A 5'10", 145-pound linebacker.
That's funny.
Playing in the Big Ten. Hey,
That's
speed.
hilarious.
A lot of leverage.
That's hilarious. That's funny.
Yeah, I mean, I can get it though. Like, if Bates wanted to play quarterback, if I wanted to play, that's the reason why I went to Iowa State, is because every other place that they were either, because I only got scholarship offers to like D2 places, so I had to walk on. But it's basically saying like, all right, Rhodes was like, you can play running back. Cool. We're not paying for it. Come on. Like, all right.
I get it. I had a few places that wanted me to punt because I did both in high school, kicker and punter, and I was like, man, I can punt, but
Nebraska's gonna have you play quarterback.
Nebraska wanted me at cornerback actually.
Corner, I can see that.
Yeah, corner.
I can
Like
see that.
your
Yeah, I
your
can
back
see that.
was really nice. So
Hey, what's Geyer up to?
he's living in Des Moines. He's got a kid. He's got another one on the way. Actually, not Des Moines, but I mean a suburb of Des Moines.
Des Moines enough.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, he. I'm sure. I hope I get a text from him after this because I got a text from him after our first one. He's like, "Hey man, thanks for the shout out." Because I told him in our first podcast we had talked about how the slapdick kickers, like when everyone else was actually practicing, we'd be in the indoor playing golf. Like we would have our not actual golf, but like with a football, we would punt from one goal line to the next, and we would try to whoever can get in the O of Iowa or the O of Cyclones on both end zones. Then
Bro,
it's
special
golf.
teams, dude.
Yeah.
Dude, right?
Dude,
Meanwhile,
I will never
we're doing
forget-
inside.
Yeah, which is terrible. I will never forget Rhodes yelling. I forget if it was you or Geyer, like in fall ball.
Yeah,
my
when he
first-
hopped on his back. Do you remember that?
No, I just remember like hearing him yell just some stuff I will not. And it was just like I was like, I want to go home. Like it was so bad.
Yeah,
that was tough, bro.
at one point, I know we're kind of getting a tangent. I think this is
Yeah,
fun.
sorry.
No, you're
No,
good.
tangents are good.
Yeah, so at one point, this behind the curtain, we were doing tackling drills, and we had like Jarvis West and like Darius Reynolds. There's like guys that are like way too fast. Leonard Johnson. We had him like fake catching, and then like it was 1-on-1, like not like stay between the cones. Just you have the entire field yourself. A very realistic scenario, and Rhodes is like, okay, break down and tackle him, and I'm like, dude, if I am 1-on-1 with a specialist, I'm gonna like try to lay my body as
It's over.
horizontally as I could. I'm not gonna have a good form. I'm going for his legs. But I remember at one point, Geyer was so like standing up straight, and it was just whoever it was would give him just one juke and he's gone. And so Coach Rhodes hopped on his back and he's like, bend at your knees. And I think Geyer like fell to the ground because he wasn't expecting a coach to hop on his back. But we were all like, oh my, what are we doing here?
Dude. No, I mean someone missed a field goal and he's like, shouldn't be on scholarship or something.
Oh no, that was Blyle. No, okay, so I remember it. It was
No,
there was
was
one with Blyle, but I don't know if that was later.
It was Bulware. It was Bulware who got
Bulware
Because
wasn't
we
there
weren't
with me.
we weren't there with Bull.
Oh, we
you
left
weren't-
right when I got there. Yeah.
damn. So
That's who
Zach,
recruited me. That's who recruited me. It's like Rhodes and them was all like, I didn't know any of them.
Zach got
Yeah.
it from both coaching staff because before you were
You know, I got
there,
from Rhodes. It was Rhodes yelling.
well, with Bulware before you guys got there, Zach had missed a kick, and I remember Bulware was like, "You're robbing from us. You're stealing from us." I was like, "Oh, shit, you!
Wow.
That's
Yeah, that's
intense."
tough.
I remember I think it was Pierce Richardson. He was a tight end. He was playing wing. It was on special teams. And Blyle would always have the opposite start to the way that you think the thing is going to happen. So he'll be like, Jesus Christ, Tufty, that's a great block. And you're like,
But
that went the complete opposite direction of how he's supposed to start.
Oh, man,
and
dude.
Pierce Richardson, he was on a wing, like, you're supposed to just punch and go it out, whatever.
Yep.
And he Bly'll start and go, I tell you what, Pierce Richardson, you know what they call you? A waste of a scholarship.
Dude, that stuff like that's tough for me, man. Like that staff was some of that stuff was tough, man.
That was yeah.
When they
I
say
think
something, I'm like, oh my gosh.
yeah. And then Co would.
I love CO though. He's cool.
He would. I don't know, for whatever reason. I don't think Co hated me, and so that was like not
CO
a.
and Yancey, dude, were awesome though, bro.
CO was responsible for like supervising the kickers throughout practice, and at one point,
That's right.
we were doing like a
babysitting.
one-on-one where it was like the kickers, punters, and long snappers, where we did like, you've both at a cone, you've got cones to your right and your left, and it's like you chop your feet and you pick one way, and then you kicker, punter, long snapper's got to go and wrap up. And at one point, CO was like, "Man, I don't know why the fuck we're doing this." And I remember one time they had like freshly spray painted the lines, and he went down and like, we're like, CO, like, what are you doing, man? He's like, "Man, when I was a kid, we used to get brown paper bags and would spray paint into the bag and just huff and get high." We're like, "What?
Not surprised.
What are you? You're supposed to be coaching us
hilarious.
right now." And you're like,
Huff
"Yeah,
and
man, when I
paint.
was a kid, we used to huff paint and get high." He's like, "I don't really care if you guys are tackling right now. I just got to be out here supervising you guys." And we're like,
That's
"Yeah, what are you
hilarious.
doing right now?"
That's so funny, dude. Oh man. So I got some great memories, man, there. It's
Yeah.
a tough one. But
Yeah, I mean, the first one that stands out is picture day when the guy we called you Curly or
Curly.
something. Yeah.
Curly. Wow.
Just
Come
yeah,
on.
your
Hard
weasel
enough being a
laugh.
white running back, don't be. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then freaking what's his name? Herman called me Curly forever.
Yep.
Yeah, at least he addressed you though. He wouldn't even address specialist.
Kicker.
Hey Herman, what's up? Kicker. God damn it, coach, I have a name.
Dude, what's Rhodes up to in those guys? I mean,
He
are they
retired-
coaching?
He's a linebacker coach at Boston College.
So he retired, then unretired. So like his semi-retirement was he went down to Gulf Shores High in Gulf Shores, Alabama,
Oh wow.
and was I think just like a defensive coordinator at Gulf Shores High.
They were good. They were good in high school.
mean-
But they were good.
It's Gulf Shores High though. Like, you ever been to Gulf Shores?
No.
Beautiful.
Oh.
Beautiful. Just white
Pretty
sand
cool.
beach all the way through.
I mean, it's the same beaches they run along the Emerald Coast here.
Yeah.
Same thing.
So
Yeah.
like it just gorgeous. So I think it was just he still wanted to coach, but didn't want to do anything too seriously. And then I don't know. I think one of his buddies was coaching or DC at Boston College, so now he's a linebackers coach, DBs coach
Got
at
it.
Boston College.
Yeah.
Actually working a little
Got
bit.
Yep.
Got it. Cool.
Boston College, I don't think is very good, but good to get him, back into a Power 5
Yeah,
conference.
for sure. For sure.
Coach Pope's
Yeah.
retired down in Galveston.
Is he? Nice.
Kenny P golfing basically every day.
Mm-mm.
I got a box of
Man.
Tic Tacs the other day from the store, and I couldn't help but think of Coach Pope. And every time he'd run, just
Yep, that's exactly right.
Just
dude.
how-
The play without the, oh my god, the play without the shoe.
I'm trying to remember.
So there's a spring ball game. It was our first spring ball, and I think they were trying to rest A-Rob. So it was basically you and me and James White, and then because Jeremiah Schwartz and Bo Williams either weren't playing or weren't whatever. And
Dude, I know I did not play in the spring. Ever play in the spring? I remember I sat out.
it must have been. It was a bit of a fall camp then.
Okay.
But it was at one point you got a shoe taken off, like someone just in a tackle, like someone pulled your shoe off. And coach, we're trying to run hurry up, and Coach Pope is like, "Go without the shoes!" Just freaking out on the sideline. Play without the shoe. And Coach Rhodes comes over, like, "Hey, let's not break his toes." And they had to get you off the field
That's hilarious.
because Pope
man.
was just freaking
I
out.
forgot about that, man. Dude, those practices were so hard. Like,
Did it get? I mean, compare those
It's
to the
way
practice at
different.
Ohio.
very different, man. Like, and that's no offense to that staff, and but that's not who recruited us or brought me in. It was Chiswick and those guys. So it's a whole different culture than I was expecting. It was tough, bro, for me. Like that whole squad, and then is a much better fit at Ohio. Like, I don't know if y'all remember the winter fourth quarters. Do you remember those?
Oh yeah.
Like,
Oh,
bro,
yeah.
dude, I've got a story
there's
for another
like-
time with the fourth
and
quarters.
and I remember fall camp. Remember my freshman year,
Mhm.
Woody fall camp. Dude, I don't think I've ever been through anything hard. I don't know if it's just because I was a freshman, but I don't think I've ever been through anything harder than that fall camp.
That was
Like-
it. It was a zillion degrees too.
It was a zillion degrees, and it was horrible and
Well-
like terrible.
I
And
don't-
so,
I remember they didn't have shoe dryers for the first like 3 or 4
Yeah,
days, and so
dude.
like it's 100. Well, also as a walk on, who I think if there's the 105 that gets to go to camp, I think I was number 104. I think Tame and Hoyne might have been 105, but
Yeah.
What a throwback name.
and so they literally give me lineman cleats, the ankle high, 4 pounds worth, 7 studded lineman cleats, and I'm going through running back drills with those, getting foot cramps, sweating through my shoes, and have to go ask them like, "Hey, can I get some new shoes?"
And then those
Well,
stinky old
they didn't
shoes.
recruit me, so I was like there too. So it's just like,
Uh-huh.
you know, I don't know. It was tough for me that year. I mean, it ended up being great, but I ended up getting hurt or whatever. But like, that memory that was very tough. And then the winter fourth quarter, like, I remember thinking, this is horrible. You know, felt like too much, honestly. But
So I'll dive into it. So the fourth quarter story that I've got. So we were in the opposite corner. It'd be what the northwest corner.
Let me contextualize this for the listener so we can actually understand the story.
You know where I'm going?
No, but
What
I'm just
year
saying,
is
like,
this?
just describing what fourth quarters are. So the fourth quarter drills, there's 6 stations. You divide up into, so like it'd be like running backs go with, it was just us. It was just running backs, maybe tight ends, like running backs and tight ends or something like that. Running backs, quarterbacks, somebody.
Yeah.
And like the
Quarterbacks.
D-line travels and the O-line travels. And each position group is at a different station. And each one of those stations, you'd have, like, let's say you're pushing crab sleds and you have to push it 10 yards and you're in groups of 3, and the coach would say, you know, whatever, set, go, and you go as fast as you can, next person goes, whatever, and you're going for 3 minutes. And you have a minute and a half rest between, it's 3 minutes of a station. You have a minute and a half rest between that station and the next station. For
no,
every
it's 30 seconds.
it was
30 seconds rest.
it was a minute, or because every time you had
It was a minute, and then if you messed up, you did the 20
Right.
push-ups.
So every time
Right.
it was 5 up downs. So every time you screwed up, you had to do 5 up downs for each screw up. So if you had 1 screw up, you still got some kind of rest because it's 5 and you can move on. If you screwed up 2 or more times, and you basically just had no rest from one station to the next station, and a screw up consisted of a lack of effort. So like if you were tired and you didn't go hard enough, that counts as a screw up, and it just snowballs in the next one. So there's 6 stations. You're trying to avoid a screw up the entire time. So that is what fourth quarters were.
So we were going from one station. We, the specialists, were going from one station to Yancey McKnight Station in the northwest corner of the indoor, which is on the opposite side of the restrooms. And Yancey's station was, 3 of you would come out, chop your feet, and then you
wave reaction drill. Yeah,
you would somersault into it and then chop your feet, and he would point to your left, you'd shuffle to your left, shuffle to your right, and then he'd send you through. And so you're on the ground, or you're on your butt too. You shuffle on your butt and kind of roll around. And so the station before Yancey's, we didn't have any mess ups, and so I was like, great, I've got a minute rest. And I was like, Yance, I've really got to poop. I really got to poop, man. Like my stomach's hurting. I really got to poop. He's like, sorry. He's like, you only got a minute. I was like, can I just run to the bathroom quick? Like, I promise, like, I'll be quick. He's like, no. He's like, you can either shit your pants or go outside in the rocks. And I debated shitting my pants for 10 seconds, and I was like, I can't do it. So I went outside to the rocks, took a dump, wiped with, I tried to found the smoothest rock that I could. Wiped the rock, tossed it down. I only missed,
Ooh, that's
caveman
great,
stuff.
man.
I only missed one rep, which we had to,
Bro.
we had to, do the up downs, whatever, in between stations. But I was
that's
so
funny.
relieved. I was like, I'm not about to shit my pants and then roll around with poopy pants on. So
Just shaved it off with a rock real quick.
I did. And surprisingly, it was
Butthole's still recovering, probably. That's tough.
Yeah.
I mean, diaper rash is a real thing, Grant.
That's funny,
God.
bro. That's
Yeah, but the door,
hilarious.
so the door locked behind you too. So I remember when I was done, I was like, let me in, guys, like I'm done. And then Randy Dorn, one of the managers, was like, he's gonna realize the door locked. I was like, yeah, let me back in.
Man. Bro, that's so great. That's so great, man. I love that. Oh god.
I don't think anybody shit. Did anyone shit themselves at Ohio?
No, I don't remember that one. No, not like that. That's funny.
Oh man.
That's funny. Oh man, I love it. But those are some tough times, dude. Like that. That fourth quarter was like very, very tough. So, and I don't really know if it translated. Like, it was hard, but I don't really know if it translated that much, But
for me, I didn't mind it because it was my chance as
To
like
earn, yeah.
scrub walk on. If I can beat Yeah, I mean, the
yourself.
great thing is, I thought you said poop yourself.
No. Prove.
I did not, Grant. But like, I'm going up against Bo Williams and guys like that. Like,
Yeah.
I look great.
Oh, no,
by
you have to work
comparison.
hard. Oh, 100%. Yeah, you can dominate, but it's just like, I was it's like never ended. It's just like, God. And then they let you go home for break, for Christmas break or
my
whatever.
God.
And you come back and
Mhm.
then everyone's dead and do it again. It's just
Yeah.
like, dude. The restaurants were O'Betty's and Jackie O's. Those are the 2 restaurants they need to go to.
Appreciate the thoroughness on
Yeah,
following
sorry.
up there.
Perfect.
So, yeah,
Okay.
just didn't want to forget. So,
I think that'll be all we got for you, Bo.
Yeah.
So I went on some
Say
tangents
Grant
there.
up one time.
Yeah.
went on some tangents, man.
Yeah. That's the fun of it, though. It's you're just kicking it, double entendre. We're talking about special teams, and we're also just chilling, just kicking it.
Man.
So
Well, thank you guys for having me on. It's great.
Yeah,
seeing
no,
you
we really
guys.
appreciate you joining us, Bo, and it's great to hear from you. Obviously, probably haven't heard from you since college, but it's
I know, man.
great to catch up. Good to see you. Good to hear from you.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much.
Yeah, it's good to talk to you again, bud.
We appreciate it. Thanks, Bo.
You bet.
Man, thanks to Beau Blankenship. That was the interview on Kicking It, brought to you by Goldfinch Athletics. That was the shittiest interview we've ever done.
I see what you did there.
I can't.
Great to hear from him.
Great to hear from him. I mean,
Bo's salt of the earth dude.
absolutely just monster in the weight room too.
Yeah,
He squats like 600 pounds.
Yeah.
I don't know if he still does. Looks
Yeah.
like he still push a little bit of weight.
he does. Yeah, he's just built like a tree trunk and runs like an ox.
All right. Well, we're gonna try and get we're gonna shoot for the stars for next week's guest. I think there's a chance that we get a decent name.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna try to. I don't want to, promise anything, but we're gonna try to get some
So get a name. Just stay tuned.
names. Not that Beau Blank and Tyler Sievertson and
Scott Docterman
aren't names, but yeah, we're trying to. It's going to get a little bit more difficult to, find people that because obviously Iowa, you and I, just there may be people from within the state we know, so it may be a little more difficult to find someone from
anyway.
Cincinnati, but we'll get some people.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.